Hi everyone, it's Erkan Ali here with Shula Jacobs. It's been a while. We've done part one and part two on the subject of how they made us hate each other. Is that right? Was that the title? Yeah.
Yep,
Title referred. Shula, it's great to see you. It looks like it's actually warm in the UK, which is nice to see.
we have a sunny day out there so far. A little bit hazy, that
You actually
big.
look really happy about it, which is nice.
I am I'm a real sun worshipper.
Uh,
I love the sunshine. I thrive on it, and so it's not that I can't operate in rain. It's just like sunshine cheers everyone up.
yeah, you need, yeah.
I don't feel
Well,
better.
I'll say it's 35 here, so it's kind of staying out of the
Stop
sun.
bragging.
I don't feel like I'm bragging. It's like I mean, last night I went out. It was about 9, I think, and it was and you open the door and the heat, the air comes. It just hits you hot. It doesn't really do much, but at least it's better than no air. That's for sure. So listen. So today, guys, welcome to Beyond Mainstream. Um, we will be up in the pace again. We had a little bit of a leeway, various reasons. We'll go into that. Uh, and what we're doing is we're further deepening our discussion and finishing off this final part 3 of the article that Shula wrote, which is where can people find this article at the moment, Shula? I know we will have links below, but just to say, where is the article available at the moment?
It's on my website, available as a PDF. The links will be below the show in the notes.
What's the
And
website
it's
address?
wieldingthesword.com.
Okay. Okay, so that's a good place to start if you're looking for the
Yeah,
articles,
which
etc.
is all about the quest for truth and freedom, with a big focus on the role of behavioral psychology.
Well, this is what we've been doing. We've done part 1, part 2, which is all up and out. Um, the thought. I mean, I'll just kind of bring it back down to very basic levels. The thought that our governments or our institutions, or those, if you like, that are in positions of influence, which may be corporations and media companies, etc., are actively um, creating strategy and plans and philosophies and tactics and they're actively going out to put us against each other, to create division, to create confusion, to heighten fear, to manipulate or influence behaviour and ultimately what people do. Um, what I am seeing for myself is how much resources, time, effort, um, and skills. People have skills. They've got technological skills, nuanced skills, whether it's scientific, psychological. How much is being put just in this area that is being funded, if you like, or resourced is incredible. I mean, it's absolutely um, it's like a torrent of it's like just like a tsunami of
That's how I
information.
describe it.
Yeah, it's like
It's
you
the
can't.
never-ending tidal wave of.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. And it was funny, about 2 weeks ago, my youngest daughter, and I were having some quality dad-daughter time. We were watching videos of tsunamis. I don't know how we got onto it, but we did. And just the power of these things to just sweep away everything in its wake. And yet there's a few of us that are going, hold on a minute. I wouldn't say maybe we're impervious, but at least we see the strings. We see the
Yeah,
we don't just see the if you like the narrative that's being portrayed, but we kind of see the mechanisms behind it. That doesn't mean we're extra clever. It just means we've been looking for them and researching.
yeah. I
So,
mean, the analogy I often use, like with the media particularly, is uh, the public are like a puppy chasing a ball. So the media throws the ball one way, everyone looks in that direction, and then back and forth. And it's never ending. And I think a prime example of that was recently with that alleged Neil Ferguson memo. Did you see that?
was that the one that?
The fake one, when they were talking about like permanent lockdowns and stuff like that. And
Right, I must have missed that
it's
one.
just thrown in there to confuse the pot even more.
But then
And
also you got things like Matt Hancock resigning on the basis of having a fling with his aide, and yet there's Public Health England are releasing other information in the background. More money's been borrowed in the background. It's you anybody who's done a modicum amount of research or paying attention. When I say research, guys, by the way, I don't mean researching what Panorama are saying and what the BBC is saying. I'm talking about beyond mainstream. That's the whole point: is getting out of the mainstream current and getting on the banks of the fringes and starting to explore on your own terms and making up your own mind. And I think that's a really important part of this. This isn't about um, getting more savvy with what mainstream is saying. It's actually getting out of the mainstream and starting to see what's being said, what ideas are being shown. And we've been saying this obviously over the period of 18 months now, over and over, but I just think we haven't said it for a little while in this way. So we're going through the article and we're going to conclude at the end. So we're at the bit where it says seeding ideas with junk science and pseudo-philosophy. Can you tell us a little bit about what that part of the article is really kind of where it's taking us?
yeah, I mean, a big part of this for me is how ideas are seeded into the mainstream, and we know they use junk research, and the pseudo-psychology thing is really interesting because I mean there was a glut of articles last year in the BBC and a lot of the kind of mainstream news outlets where they were obviously trying to uh, kind of make out that anyone who believed in an alternative narrative was basically of low intelligence, a hateful extremist, and people whose social distance may be more intelligent, study says, like things like that. There was another one which the characteristics of the conspiracist, why conspiracy theorists need to feel unique, just somehow making out that we're all narcissistic and attention-seeking whores and all this sort of thing. And there was even one, I can't remember where it was, but it was equating people who believed in alternative narratives as being psychopathic.
There's undertones of not well balanced people who need attention.
People who are mentally ill.
We did quite a bit of visiting recently because my parents were here, and mum and dad said to me, "You've been really quiet, so I've really got not much to say." When you're in a room of people that have already been vaccinated and are telling you that you need the vaccine so you can travel, or if I don't get the vaccine, I won't be able to work, and and within that kind of view of the world, I can get you just follow the plan. But then when they're just a modicum of challenge, like no more people are dead now than normal. A lot of just basics, not even that challenge, and they have no idea. And there comes a point where you just think in this space. Um, there's a distinction we used to use at landmark education called in the listening. So how people would listen to you saying that stuff who haven't done any research or have been very much influenced or informed through the mainstream. They can't hear you in the way that maybe when we speak we can hear each other. So in that kind of their listening, the way they would listen to you is it's so out of the frame that even to say to them, you've had the vaccine. Two of my cousins had the vaccine, and we said, my dad actually said, do you know what's in it? And they go, no. You haven't even looked? No.
Yeah, people
Then my
haven't
dad
even asked
starts
that
listing
basic
off.
question.
Yeah, my dad starts listing off all these, and they're going, oh my God, no, don't say that, don't say. I mean, literally like a response of repulsion at the idea that those things have been injected in them. And then well, what's going to happen to us? They ask that question. Well, given that given that not many people are dying, and the ones that are dying with are 80 something plus with other illnesses, and there was absolutely no need for this. What do you think Why do you think they've given you this? And they just go, oh, well, they're trying to kill us, aren't they? Well, I didn't say that. But why would you give someone or insist that the whole planet is vaccinated for something
Yeah, I mean,
that they're very, yeah,
this is a telltale sign, like the urgency with,
yeah, not enough time to think, just get it done, get it done, get it done.
yeah,
So
making sure
yeah,
that people don't have time to think.
yeah.
But it's like you've made that decision, now you have to own it.
But there has been some encouragement. I mean, I think there are people who have had their 2 vaccines now saying, right, we're ready to open. You were supposed to open on the 21st of June. We've had enough of this now. We want to get on with it. We want, they've done it for that narrative, jab and go.
Yeah,
In January, February, March, it was jab and go on holiday. Then it was you can't go on holiday. Then it was like this date of the 21st of, was it 21st of June? And then they've
yeah,
now backed that to 19th of July. I
yeah.
think
A
there's,
lot of people said around the 21st that, that was it. They were done with it. They'd done their bit. They'd worn the mask, taken the vaccine, and as far as they were concerned, they weren't interested anymore, which I think is fair enough. But
the thing is though with that, I mean, they may not be interested anymore. There might be some kind of reluctance that will the general majority start to say we're not having this. Will they rebel? Will there be like will they turn, or will they just take the next thing that's given to them? No, it's not going to be the 19th of July now. There's now an alpha beta version 2 variant that's come out of I don't know wherever, and we're going to have to lock down now till October. I mean, what are they going to do? What are
yeah,
I'd like to know because there's still the furloughs are still going. I suppose that's until they run out. I
well, they're
suppose,
talking about winding that down now.
yeah.
I think the money supply for those people who are not working is going to dry up pretty shortly. Uh, and whether we actually come out of lockdown at that stage or stay in doesn't really matter unless you start taking responsibility for yourself and the decisions that you're making. Then life is going to get pretty difficult.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Okay. Any more we want to say about this section?
Yeah, just that a lot of these ideas do come from, as we said, junk science and pseudo-psychology. So it's like, people see an article in the mainstream, and because it's got blah, 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 study says, or research proves that so and so is the case, they automatically assume that they can take it as read without actually looking at the study. And in some cases, you look at these articles and you can't even find links to the actual research that was conducted.
Well, that's what you'd call propaganda, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's not scientific research or reporting or narrative.
yeah,
It's
it's not based on anything that's actually real or anything that's been proven.
it's like this idea that the government, generally the official line, or if you like, that's coming through the mainstream, is that they're safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective.
Yeah,
Well, there is some risk, but then nobody's
yeah,
measuring it really, are they? They're not really reporting on it. They don't read, even in Parliament. Matt Hancock was asked how many people are, dying 3 weeks after they've had these injections, and they don't have that figure. We'll have to
yeah,
look at that. We'll find out. Oh, yes, something I do might want to look at that. Yeah,
yeah.
the
And these articles all follow a specific formula in that it's kind of problem, reaction, solution. Oh well, we've noticed that this is a big problem, and then they'll get their sage scientist in at the end to talk about what people should do as a result of it and where they see the solution going.
Yeah, I mean, there was a who did I quote the other day? Oh, sorry, it's gonna be a little break here, but one sec, let me find it. I was quoting. Uh, oh, sorry, guys. Should have been better prepared, shouldn't I? Was it Paul Hornby from? What did I do with it? Hold on a second. Those who follow our channel would maybe have seen this. I posted it not long ago.
There was actually a government briefing document from the Commission for Countering Extremism, and it was called How Hateful Extremism is Exploding the Pandemic. And obviously what that article did was, well, it was a government document, it actually linked hateful extremism to belief in conspiracy theory. So,
That's
you
the
can
thing.
see how that's setting people up to...
They group up conspiracy theory as one activity.
Yeah. Without looking at all the different nuances and ideas within the alternative view of things. So you get all these words in this kind of big stew floating around together with no real differentiation between them.
I don't know. Yeah, so Paul Hornby of Nerve Take said you're more likely to see breakthrough infections if you've been vaccinated, and more likely to be infected if you've been vaccinated. And they're saying it outright.
Yeah, yeah.
And people are. I imagine you've got you've been injected to protect you, protect others, and go about your business and go on holiday. Yet you're more likely to be infected. You're more likely to spread infection. So really, if they're more likely to be infected and spread infection, more breakthrough infections to come through, then the ones that haven't been vaccinated are being put at risk by the ones that have been vaccinated. But that's not evident within the broader mainstream narrative, is it, in any way?
No.
Was it Nina Mishkov? Nina Mishkov with Beverly? What was her name? Beverly. She was
I didn't see that. No.
On Breakfast TV, and she said, "Have you had the Pfizer or the AstraZeneca?" She said, "Well, what I've had and what I haven't done is of no business of yours." Well, then I'll take it that you haven't been injected, and you should stay away from me because I've vaccinated to protect myself. And then Jeremy Vine says to her, "Well, but in that case, if you've been injected, then you are protected. It should end there." And yet they're still going on that everyone else should because it's their duty or for the greater good or whatever. And the logic just doesn't. There's no logic to it.
No, there's no logic whatsoever.
So if logic drops off, then obviously people are in fear. They're in reaction. They're in these mind confusing narratives that are being, like you said, they're dropping that story and they're dropping that story. People don't understand how confused they are and how confusing what they're saying is.
They're just happy to kind of believe that they hold the moral high ground.
That's it, the moral high ground. Like, well, I'm doing the right thing. I'm behaving as I've been asked to. I'm a good girl or good boy. Okay. Was it Minchy? Is it Susan Minchy, isn't it?
Yeah, Susan, Mikey, Mitchie,
whatever. She was on the interview the other day and said that we should have to wear masks forever. And you got here lockdowns forever as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, she's really pushing this kind of zero COVID, let's stay with this forever. And this was one of the things that really stood out for me when I was researching for this article. The fact that it is these behavioural scientists that are pushing the idea of continual lockdowns and for all these measures to continue. And one of the things that stood out for me was that way back in March 2020, there was an open letter signed by 600 behavioural scientists sent to the government, which was demanding to know why they were delaying the implementation of social distancing measures. And I found that curious because, you could almost understand it if, like, say, a virologist or an epidemiologist was pushing for social distancing because they genuinely believed that there was a major threat coming. But behavioural scientists, what did it really have to do with them at the time?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, also here on this thing, on the part of the article, Lockdowns Forever, there was this 320 million contract awarded specifically for COVID-19 campaigns.
Yeah.
The amount of money I mean, not just for these campaigns. I think I saw another one recently about dead body storage within London. There was a contract being put out. You know, if there was a sudden high fatality incident or something as they term it. So there's these crazy amounts of money being thrown around,
Yeah,
and well, money would give you a sense of personal sense of grandeur. Like what you're doing is so important. Because look, it's been validated by what you're being paid to do it. But actually, what I see is you're being bought. You're being bought to propagate a narrative that doesn't benefit humanity in any way.
yeah. I mean, going back to these contracts again, when I was researching this, I came across two job adverts for behavioural scientists to one was to like lead a team on the ground, mostly working from home, but also to be deployed at specific locations for, I guess, kind of more local lockdowns and surge testing and stuff like that. So the idea that this is all going away.
Well, it just doesn't. They're too invested in it.
Yeah,
Like now, with Matt Hancock gone, who's an appalling person in my opinion. You've got Sajid Javid, former corporate banker,
yeah,
head of health. I don't know if you saw there's a little black and white video. I don't know if you saw it about the plan to end the world or something it was called. It was kind of set to 1930s music. It was done in a very jittery kind of black and white, like that. I don't know if you saw it. And there's this, and like it says, the banks will own the hospitals. The banks will own, and in the end they'll have all of it. And
yeah,
look, I know also above Matt Hancock, there's the banks and the financial just anyway. I mean, regardless of which puppet is paraded in front of us. But it can't get more explicit than the head of our health within the UK is a finance guy. It just from a point of health, vitality, well-being. If the narrative was to get us out of this deadly virus, why would you need to spend all this money trying to scare the crap out of everyone?
mm,
Now we know that that's obvious to us, but maybe there's somebody listening to this that's stumbled on this interview that maybe has gone and got the two jabs and maybe starting to think, hold on a minute, no, it doesn't. I've done it. I've been duped. We've all been duped. I mean, hands
yeah.
up.
Oh, I
Everyone's been
have.
duped. We've all.
This is the thing. There is no shame in being fooled. I've been fooled. Whether it's by people selling me double glazing or previous boyfriends or whatever. We've all been in that situation where someone's pulled the wool over our eyes and we've ended up feeling pretty crap because of it. And there's no shame in.
If you think about any of those, I imagine. I mean, I don't know about your particular examples, but I'm sure you played your part in it as well. I mean, I know I have.
Oh,
I've had,
yeah.
I had a conference call with someone the other day, and he asked me how you doing. I did my little 5-10 minute narrative. He said, "Oh well, just to be clear, I've had my two jabs." I looked at him and I just said, "Well, good luck to you." I said, "But I think you've made a big mistake, and when you work that out for yourself, you know that that's your business, to be honest."
Yeah.
But
I've been in relationships and all the people around me were telling me like he is really no good for you.
it's lovely. You don't know
And
him, but
then
I know.
6 months, but you kind of perpetuate the story for yourself because you
Yeah.
kind of, there's obviously some payoff for you at the time. And then sooner or later you reach a point when there isn't, and you kind of have to put that behind you and do what needs to be done to move forward.
Well, we're still at the stage, I think, where, in my opinion, that
That came to my mind immediately was if behavioral psychologists have such an investment in our well-being, why would they be lobbying for prolonged lockdowns and more social distancing? Like, it just makes no sense. If they actually cared about people.
well, I don't think in that narrative or context it doesn't make any sense. They clearly don't care about people.
Yeah,
I was listening to Richie Allen this morning, last night's show. He had a musician on, I think Mark.
I heard that.
Yeah, and he was saying like this whole industry of live music, musicians, the arts. The first thing that goes is the arts because the arts
Yeah,
and the artists and the are very influential, whereas politicians are less so. They're
yeah, I can really
influential by
relate to that.
mandate, yeah, but not through leadership or influence. So these lockdowns are continually creating stress, concern. Um, it's a. And I think Imran said it on one of our past guests on the show. It's an abusive relationship
It is,
between government
definitely.
and also government and corporations who are going to insist that because this was saying around the entertainment industry. The roadies and anyone else to be involved with live music are going to need to be vaccinated. If you want to go to a concert, you're going to need to be vaccinated. So it's not government dictate. The government can say, well, it's not down to us anymore.
Yeah. And I heard even Bruce Springsteen was not only insisting people were vaccinated, but if you'd had, like, I think it was the AstraZeneca, you couldn't actually go.
You have to have the Pfizer or I don't know, the Johnson and
And
Johnson.
you think, how does that even work? Surely people can see it then. But yeah, I mean, I really related to that conversation because of being a dance teacher myself. The arts has been extremely badly hit, and our social dance scene, which obviously relies on kind of full body contact and these close, sweaty environments with music, I think people are still holding out for them to come back. Personally, I think unless something happens within the next few weeks, it will be unlikely.
Well, they say
Um,
around the football that people can't get up and shout, they can't sing,
yeah,
they have to be
yeah.
seated. I
Yeah.
mean, this is
Did
this
you
is
see the
crazy.
discussion with Mark Devlin and Danny Rampling, the DJ?
No, no.
That's quite, along the same theme. And Danny Rampling, one of the DJs from, like the original kind of rave club scene,
Mm.
he was saying that, make no bones about it, if these events don't come back, then we will be forced to go down the unlicensed underground route.
Well, this is, I think, what I've been seeing on a moral level. It's your duty to break the law now. It's your duty to maybe forge a vaccine certificate or a PCR test, or because what is being imposed is tyranny. It's not based on any factual. It's not based for your benefit. It's not based on your protection. It's based on your acquiescing and being, I don't know, subhuman. I mean, I think anyone who's given themselves over to experimental process and acquiescing their rights and not saying anything, you're no longer fully, in my view, a fully formed human being. You've had a certain level of your spirituality, your autonomy, your understanding what it means to be human has been taken away, even though you gave it away, maybe. Because all you've been asked to do is get the jab, otherwise you can't get on the plane. Okay, maybe it wasn't that easy for a lot of people, but in the end they did it. And you think about the physical act of rolling your sleeve up and having an injection is a very small thing. It's not like it's not like being in trenches for 5 years. You just literally just surrendered. White flag, go on, go for it.
Mm.
I mean, this is the most incredible war because it's all psychological. Nobody's pointing a gun at your face or mine and said you have to have this injection. Well, just shoot you. Might just shoot me. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. They're doing this is different. This is a different game, different level of, and I think
Yeah.
far more sinister, far more effective than dropping bombs. And because
Yeah.
you drop a
Spiritual,
bomb in the village up the road, then the people in this village are going to go, "We're having that," and they're going to,
spiritual psychological warfare. The
yeah.
other interesting thing was going back to the likes of these sage scientists and the behavioural mob. A lot of their research is actually published by the British Psychological Society, and not too long ago, the society hit headlines because uh, they were arguing for the rights of psychologists to prescribe these puberty blockers. So that was kind of in the mainstream. And there was a group of members who had had like a long association with the British Psychological Society, and they actually set up a blog called BPS Watch, which was really to air their concerns about the transparency of the organisation and the way it was handling certain things. And obviously that was one of them. But what they actually said, and I shall quote from their homepage, they said the British Psychological Society had been subject to institutional capture by psychologists who are activists within frameworks of identity politics and by the cronyism of an in-group of psychologists. And that kind of in one sentence really explains what's happened. And so all this research that's been presented in the media to kind of fuel these lockdown measures and provide the the so-called science behind it clearly is junk. And the only reason it exists is because it's being published by this and other professional bodies.
But the professional bodies are advocating this approach, and then the ordinary, even people in the medical professions are saying, I've heard them say it, that I'm following the science.
Yeah.
But they're not following the science. They're following, contrived narrative. They're following propaganda. They're following political ends. They're psychological manipulation. They're not following the science. If there is a pandemic, where are all the bodies? Why is no one dying at home? I mean, I should say it to people like, you're smart. I've got a cousin who was a senior accountant in some large firms when he was working. I said, you're a numbers guy. Why is no one dying at home? If you had a pandemic, it'd be bring out your dead. The car would go by, you throw out your auntie or whatever. Where are they?
Yeah, the bodies would literally be piled up in the street, and not once have they been.
Deadly disease that's spreading the globe. You'd have dead people everywhere. Was it? I see dead people. No, I don't see any dead people. There's nothing. I don't know anybody.
No, I mean, I know more people personally on my friends list and, on Facebook and people that I, actually do know in person. I know more who have suffered from the vaccine than I do who have really had any kind of issues with respiratory infection.
Yeah, vaccine, lockdown, job losses, business shutdowns, children at home depressed online all day. The psychological scars and the long-term psychological damage. I mean, I don't think it's even calculable at this stage. I don't think
it's not.
We're no means over yet.
Number on it.
No means done. It's not like, the second shot, that'll be all over. Everyone's had a second shot. That's not it. That's not even. It's not even got the show going yet. You still got the rolling credits at the beginning of the film. That's where we're at the moment. That's how I see it.
But one of the biggest weapons they're using is the power of the social norm. This idea that they're all doing it, everyone else is doing it, so you've got to do it too.
Yeah.
And I know you're not influenced by that kind of thing. I never have been either, but the vast majority of people are.
No, I think you're right. I think they are, and I think that to go contrary to social norms or peer pressure is take something.
It does.
Hold your nerve and hold your ground and say, I know who I am. I know what makes sense, and I'm not doing that. I mean, while my parents were here, they'd go to the supermarket. So my dad now is challenging them and saying, I'm not wearing a mask. I don't believe in it. I'm not wearing a mask. So he challenged people who've had vaccines. Should have the vaccine. They said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be saying these things. He goes, I probably would have had the vaccine by now. I wouldn't have understood what was going on. But now I know there's no way. And in some ways, I'd say it's easier for them than it is, say, for someone like me or you. Because they're a bit older. People don't challenge them in the same way they might challenge us.
Yeah.
There's a bit more respect for their older. Well, in these cultures, in this area of the world, there is a little bit more respect. They may push them to do it, but they just don't. I'm not doing it, and there's not a lot they can do. Really, not gonna. You're not going to go into a supermarket and they're going to pin you down and try and put a mask on you. Probably not. Probably not. So okay, right. Let's get ourselves towards a conclusion. What was your main objective in writing this report? What is it you wanted people overall, once they've read the whole thing, what do you want them? I'm sure, I know you well enough to know it's not just to put them into the dark tunnel and go, there you go, pat, pat, and leave them to it. I know you well enough to know that's not what you're doing, but there is a certain amount of that. There's a certain amount of, oh my God, this is worse. This is worse and more orchestrated and more contrived than I ever thought it could be. And I know it's a great article, but it's like, again, it's only scratching the surface of these things, isn't it? If you go into broader terms. So to get a question to you so you can answer, what would you want people to take away from this article?
The reason I wrote it to start with was obviously personal research. A lot had been said about the fear side of the sage scientists and, this kind of promotion of fear and weaponization of it. I wanted to come from a slightly different angle, looking at specifically how these divisions had been orchestrated, because I know, like for myself, I've lost friends, and I've ditched people. I've had people ditch me because of the stance I've taken, and with the vaccination thing going kind of full throttle, that's only going to get worse. We are going to see ourselves divided and segregated as a society. And I wanted people to really understand exactly how that had been orchestrated through this little triangle of government, media, and the psychological sciences. It seemed to me there was a very clear way that this had been brought about, a very clear structure for it. And that was really what I wanted to shine a light on.
Okay, but I've read the article. I read it a few times. I'll probably read it again. How's this going to help me? How can it? What's the? It's not great news. It's really quite confronting. How can we use it to our advantage? Maybe that's the question.
I think people need to look below the surface of the information that you see, not just in the mainstream, but in the alternative sector as well. Don't take anything for granted. Look at where it's come from, do your due diligence on it, and be aware that the experiment is ongoing. And whether you like it or not, you're part of it.
So wherever you are, whether you're resisting,
Yeah.
whether you're compliant, whether you
even if you've not taken any medication or followed any rules or restrictions, you are still one of the little pawns on the board, and to a degree you're being manipulated. So be really, really conscious about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and whether you're in that kind of fear-based reactive space, or if you're acting from a conscious, informed decision. It's really easy for us, knowing the gravity of the situation, to be acting from a place of fear as well. And I know, like, a lot of people have questioned the validity of protesting and things like that, or if it's worth the legal cases that are being put forward. I mean, on their own, possibly none of them will be successful, and they themselves become part of the narrative and part of this whole game, if you like. But together, there's a place for all of them.
One thing that I've been cognitive of, and also keep that awareness, is if I'm angry or fearful or in trepidation, I know that I'm probably hooked or triggered, or quite you're in the experiment all of a sudden, developing a resilience to that and being able to go again. I mean, that's why sometimes we take these breaks, and
Yeah.
sometimes we get caught up with other parts of our lives. It's not all bad, by the way, but I think the more we all do, the ones that get it and understand what's going on, the more we can do, the more chance we've got of having a say in the way it goes. And I know for me and the people that I've been involved with, especially here, sometimes it's very, very difficult to keep that. I won't say even optimism. I think optimism is not the right word, but that kind of, we can make the change. It's possible. Keeping
Yeah.
the level of possibility alive um, is taking something. I think it's really important to be around people that, that see what you see in regards of what's going on in the world. And by no means you have to agree on everything. I mean, like you can. And the thing about agreeing, I think we've said it in previous shows as well, we should, is like you don't have to agree on everything, but find the common ground, find the narratives that match up. Don't go to what you don't agree on. And if someone is saying something that kind of goes, that's not how I saw it, just listen. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe if you listen enough, you can then give them a view that might help them learn something. Because ultimately, some of this stuff we will never know.
No.
For sure.
And you have to be okay with the not knowing. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't try and find out, but
sometimes people try and draw me to the conclusion, it's a bioweapon. I don't know. I have no idea is it a bioweapon. I don't think it even matters. It doesn't, I don't see why that even matters. If it was a bioweapon or not, it's what they're doing with it and how they're blowing it out of proportion and how they're, getting to shape behaviour and get people to close their businesses and line up for, experimental injections. It wouldn't matter if it was a bioweapon. I mean, for me,
you don't need to have the answers to everything.
No, you don't. You don't. And there's a lot of things you
it's
can't.
Easy to create drama when there is none there.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. When you're in fear, you can stoke that fire up. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about triggers is really, really important. And I think it's really good to learn what your triggers are and when you are in that kind of reactive mode and, learn how to defuse them. That's the other thing.
I've got a little bit of a way of maybe people can, is the trigger, you can't always see your triggers until they're triggered. Now if you're working on your triggers, you'll know what triggers you, and then you'll go, all right, that doesn't trigger me anymore, which is great. But when you are triggered, what I find that quite often follows a trigger is some kind of judgment. Someone will do something or say something, the trigger goes out, and then you're in that judgmental mode. And when you're in that kind of, sorry?
That was a game changer for me when I figured all that out.
Yeah, that's your trigger,
and
you're the one. You're the one in judgment. And I think if you can have the wherewithal to just keep yourself noticing when you're judgmental about others. And I hear a lot of, the sheeple, they're all idiots, they're this. I saw a guy go onto the tube the other day with a megaphone, just literally having a go at everybody. And I'm like, I get it. I really get how he feels. The anger, the resentment, the disappointment of your fellow brother and sister, and I get all of that. But it's not very enlightened, in my opinion. And I don't think very effective.
Yeah, it was something I said in the article. It's really easy to kind of label everyone as sheep and gullible and stupid and all of this.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily that simple.
No, I don't think it's that helpful.
It's
and it may be true. Maybe they are that stupid and they are that gullible inside your frame. But does it really help? Does it actually?
But when you look at that, what we said, the tsunami of information and the way these organisations have been hijacked and
just time for compassion.
Mentally and emotionally are up against.
Yeah, it's a time for compassion and empathy. And I don't know. At the moment, I feel repulsed to the level that if someone's been vaccinated, I just can't feel like I've got to pull myself away. And that's like it's like you walk into your house and open the door. There's a big poo there. Your immediate reaction is to you want to get away from it. And right now, that's how I feel about people who've been vaccinated. That's my reaction. Now, I have compassion for how they've ended up there, but the thought that they're walking around with those chemicals and those molecules or whatever they are, that nanotech inside their bodies, just makes me feel sick to the core. That's just where it's at. Maybe that's part of the programming, that the ones who haven't had it will be disgusted by those who have, and vice versa, maybe. So,
I think that's kind of what they're banking on, because it's another means of division, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's
I mean, I'm
great.
trying
Yeah.
not to
Yeah, I
allow
mean, it's
my
like if you
husband
see
to get.
something, maybe the Germans, maybe the way they viewed the Jews back in the days, they were rodents. And, one is disgusted by rodents. It's like, oh, yeah, it's like it's not something you even have control over. You just react. And I guess that, everything that's coming through that TV. In fact, I was watching some of the channels on telly the other day, and so every other word was vaccine, 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 vaccine. People lining up for vaccine. It was like a heroic thing. It was nationalistic. It was virtue was to be vaccinated. You care about other people. You care about yourself. And it's like, and the more, and I couldn't listen to it for more than 5 minutes, and your stomach is turning. It's just horrendous. My stomach was turning. All right. Well, listen. This is the end of part 3. Thank you, Shula. I think you did a great job on the article. Make no bones about it. Are you working on anything else? Is there no new article in the pipeline, or are you going to take a little breather?
I was taking a breather. I'm going to do a couple of sort of shorter ones because I'm kind of back in dance mode again. I've been doing a little bit around the idea of using dance for really as an antidote to all of this. And so that's taking kind of precedent at the moment. But there will be a follow-up to this at some point. But I mean, it took me a good couple of months to do the research for this first one. So, and I imagine it'll take probably similar to research the next one.
Oh, it's a good bit of work, and I applaud you for it. Well done. Listen, if you've enjoyed the program, you're enjoying the shows, please like, subscribe, share, comment, feedback, all that kind of good stuff. We do have a Facebook page. FYI, I'm banned on Facebook again. So,
how are you? Well done.
yeah, so I'm out for another 30 odd days. I'll be honest, I don't think Facebook is making much of a difference, but it's just somewhere I do vent a little bit. The other thing, we do have a Telegram group, so you can find Beyond Mainstream on Telegram. We're sharing more information there. And also, obviously, YouTube has had some, we've had some videos that have been deleted and banned. And we've also got our Odyssey channel. And by the way, I did set up Spreaker, put up a load of audios up, and they all disappeared. So I don't know where they are. I have to go back and look into that. But yeah, join us again for another Beyond Mainstream. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.